This is Planet 76, your source for all things Philadelphia 76ers. We've got another great episode coming your way today, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go.
Welcome, everybody, to Planet 76, episode 69, season preview, part 2. My name is Michael. Troy as well, alongside me. Sixers are right here, 2 days away. Very excited, honestly, for the season. Really excited. And we're going to basically tip off the season here on this episode. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. As always, Troy, how are we feeling today?
Feeling very good. Yeah, I mean, we're less than 48 hours from tip-off of the season for the Sixers, for the NBA. I think, I saw it on Twitter, but, I was feeling the same way. Someone said, enough preseason, I'm ready for the real thing, and that's kind of where I'm at. It's been, I think I've, seen clips or watched more preseason than I ever have. Like, there's a lot of hype for a lot of teams going into this season. And we're going to talk about some of that as we kind of focus in on, where the Sixers stack up within the Eastern Conference. I looked back at what we did last year. We gave some bold predictions. And I'll have you know that one of my bold predictions last year was, I don't know if you remember this, but I said the Chicago Bulls were going to be a top 4 seed in the East, and they were like 5 or 6.
Wow. So you were close.
It was even hard for me to get those words out last year. And they if you remember, they were top 2 seeds for the longest time. They were doing really well in the East, and then they kind of fell off toward the end of the season. But I watched those back a little bit this week, and so we'll do some of that. We'll give some award predictions, some thoughts on the Sixers' success, and then what we get to do for the first time in a long time is actually talk some basketball. So we'll preview some games with the Sixers again, tipping off with Boston and the Bucks. So, with that being said, we'll take it to the top. So how do you feel about the Sixers and, where they sit with the rest of the East? Obviously, there's some confidence, but, if you want to even list them out, whatever you want to say, Eastern Conference Sixers, the role that they're going to have this year in the East.
Before I start that, I want to preface the entire season for the Sixers by saying that I have zero expectations for this team. I think I've said it on here before. If not, I'm saying it now. I just feel as though that in years prior, they've constantly been underwhelming, within reason, obviously, with good reason, because they've dealt with injuries, they've dealt with players not being able to stay healthy, so I can't really fault them for that. But the fact of the matter remains that every year it seems that they're up in the upper tier of teams in the league, in the East, and they never do end up there.
Yeah.
So until that happens for me this season, I can't quite put them in that upper tier of teams that I'll talk about with the Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the Eastern Conference, I'd say they're, again, like I just said, right outside of that inner tier. I think that inner tier is the Bucks and the Celtics. Bucks, I feel like you have to give them the benefit because they've been there every year. They've been really good. They just made and won the finals 2 years ago. And if not for Chris Middleton's injury this past season, they would have looked a lot better. They would have looked a lot more fluid. And I think they would have won more games. Obviously, I can't prove that. But nevertheless, that's what I think. Mm-hmm. Celtics, they did just make the finals. Fantastic run from them this past season. So I also have to give them the benefit because of that. I know the whole Ime Udoka thing is kind of overshadowing that, but honestly, I think they have the talent. I think they got better this offseason after making the finals by getting Malcolm Brogdon from the Pacers, which was a robbery, by the way.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, which was a robbery, by the way. So I think the Celtics are there. And then I think it's the Sixers. And if you want to put the Nets in that tier, you can. I'd probably just put the Sixers in their own tier of tier 2 in the Eastern Conference. And then maybe the Nets, Cavs in the third tier. Whatever combination you'd like, however you would like to spell it out, whatever you want to do. But I think the Sixers are firmly in their own tier, and especially when it comes to the rest of the Eastern Conference. I don't know if you want to talk about the Western Conference at all in terms of just the league as a whole where they stack up.
Yeah.
But in terms of the East, that's what I would say.
Right. Yeah, the West is. I mean, we know what Golden State has. The Clippers could be a scary team out there since they're healthy. It's gonna
I'm
be
actually
good
terrified
to
of the
see
Clippers.
Kawhi back on the court. Maybe Memphis takes another step. They're another team that could take another step in that conference.
Yeah.
They're scary. Jaws he's the most interesting man in the world. He's so fun to watch on the basketball court. So yeah, and then in terms of the East, I think it's interesting. You noted the top two in Boston and Milwaukee, and rightfully so. I agree with that. Because even when the Sixers were the number one seed in the East, it didn't get them to where they needed to go. To your point, so it's like how do you judge them based on the fact that they haven't been there? The Bucks have been there. The Celtics went to the finals, so that's fair. Then you got the Nets, a team that you mentioned, who I am big on this year, is the Cavaliers. They're an interesting team. They got better. I mean, they have young guys that are taking a step too. Darius Garland is really, really good, and I think having Donovan Mitchell as opposed to Garland, even though Garland's very good, I think they took another step to another level. And I think a lot of people agree with that. Obviously, you do because you have them right there with the Nets maybe. So. Another team, which is just a team that I'm trying to think through Eastern Conference, like who out there could make a jump. Now I'm not crazy. Don't think that this is my bold prediction or anything. I'm just trying to think about a team, and the one team that keeps coming to mind is the Orlando Magic for some reason. They're young. they're just an interesting.
What are you gonna say about the Magic?
Not that they're like in that conversation, but they're they're just an interesting team to me. Who personally I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the mix for that playoff push between 7 through 10.
Okay,
that's I guess.
No, honestly, I thought you were gonna go a little crazier with that, but no. I agree. I can see the Magic being kind of okay. I think they have a lot of talent, a lot of their young guys. There's a pretty high ceiling there, especially a guy like even Jonathan Isaac, who's barely played. I like Jonathan Isaac, but especially even a guy like that, a couple guys they just drafted in recent years. Obviously this year with Paolo Banchero.
Yeah.
But
because I
don't even mind that, honestly.
Yeah, and they finished at the bottom of the East last year, but right now, I put them ahead of Indiana. I put them maybe ahead of Detroit. I think Cade Cunningham could have a big year too, so they're another team to watch. But as far as expectations and morale amongst those bottom tier teams, Pacers are not very good. Yeah. The Washington Wizards have Bradley Beal, and that's it. So they could fight and they could do something. I think they're going to win more games than they did last year. I think that they're. Yeah, I think they've got some potential. That's just a team that keeps coming to mind for me. But, yeah. So, to me, the Sixers, when you think of how the standings will shake out, I'm not going to be super surprised if they're as low as 4 or 5. I'm not going to be super surprised if they're the 1. They won the 1 seed a couple years ago with that team. And we're saying that this is the best team. I will say that I think, again, with an acquisition like Donovan Mitchell, with teams like the Pistons and Magic who are just young and getting better, I just think the East got tougher this year. You add DeJounte Murray to the Atlanta Hawks, they just got tougher this year in the East, I think, and I'm a little scared about that. I don't know how you feel about the East as a whole, but there's some good teams.
Here's what I will say, and I do agree with that. The Eastern Conference is arguably just as deep as the Western Conference in terms of not only top-heavy teams, but also the bottom of the East is also not as putrid as it's been in years past. Right. And to the Sixers point you made, I don't care what seed they end up as.
Yeah.
Obviously, the 1 seed is going to be extremely beneficial in your path to the finals, but getting to the finals is the most important thing, is the end-all, be-all for this team. So I don't care for the 4, I don't care for the 5. I don't see that happening, but it wouldn't shock me. And like I said, it doesn't matter how they do it. They need to do it, and it is get to the finals. And like I said, I think I said it last episode, but the Sixers, maybe I said it on my page. I'm not sure where I said it, but they need to get to the finals. If it's getting to the 1 seed, that's great. It's probably going to be getting the 1 seed because, it's like I said, it's just going to be the easiest path. But they need to do that.
Yeah. Well, even if you look back to last year's standings, and I get it's last year, but there were 6 teams within 5 games of each other between seeds 5 and 10. So the Toronto Raptors, we haven't even talked about yet, finished 48-34, and then the Hornets finished over 500 at 43-39.
They're gonna suck.
And then in there you got the Bulls, the Nets, the Hawks, the Cavs, and we agree that I think a couple of those teams are taking a step this year. I don't think people in Brooklyn are going to be happy if they're in the play-in again. It's a tougher conference, and I think the East is finally getting some recognition and the credit it deserves because. I don't know that the West is necessarily that intimidating to me, if I'm being honest. You got the Suns, you got the Grizzlies, you got the Warriors, of course. You got Luka on Dallas. You got the Joker, you got the Clippers. But, the bottom of the bottom out West is not good.
Wow, it's really bad. Especially the Spurs.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I was talking to my friend the other day, and we were talking about the Spurs, and we were talking how many players on that team can we actually name? They traded everybody. DeJounte Murray, obviously within reason because they got all those draft picks. I told him, I named the players. I could probably name 5 players on that team, 6 maybe at max. They are going to be horrible. Horrible. It's going to be a Wembanyama sweepstakes down in Texas this year.
Yeah.
And probably in Houston, too.
Right, yeah.
So, and right across the street in Oklahoma City. Well, not right across the street, but close enough
right.
to that.
Yeah, that whole region is going to be fighting for sure. So how do you... I mean, we already kind of divided it into tiers, but I'll ask you about a couple other teams, then we can move on from standings. But a couple teams that, made the playoffs last year and were, Sixers faced one of them in the Toronto Raptors and the Chicago Bulls, and Atlanta. Let's talk about those 3. How do you see the potential of those 3 stacking up? If you want to go back to tiers, because I think that explains it well. With Boston, Milwaukee in the 1, the Sixers kind of in a tier of their own, maybe behind them, and then the Nets and Cavaliers behind them. But then where do those teams, the Cavs, the Hawks, and the Raptors, fall in?
Let's go into tiers with that. I think I like that, and I think we could run with that, at least for now. I think the Raptors are firmly better than the Bulls and the Hawks. Sixers fans are not going to like this, but I like the Raptors. I think they have a lot of great players, and I'm not a Raptors fan, but I really like what they're doing in Toronto. They have a lot of really unique and interesting players, and I like a lot of them. I like their play styles. I just think it's so interesting how they're building basically an entire team of just 6-7 wings who can do everything, switch everything defensively, score in a bunch of ways, handle the ball, pass, especially when it comes to Siakam and Barnes. And then you have guys like Van Vliet and Trent who are really good as well. I like the Raptors. I think they're going to be really good this year. I'm going to put them in that Cavs-Nets tier. Okay. I think they're really good, and I like them. I like that team. I like that roster. It's going to be interesting to see how they shake up the East because they're one of the more, not questionable teams, but one of those teams where you don't really know what they're going to do, and it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do. When it comes to the Hawks and the Bulls, I'm just kind of neutral on the Bulls. I don't like the Bulls. I don't dislike the Bulls. They're just kind of mid. They're not gonna have Lonzo. They didn't really get better. They're getting Pat Williams back, which is gonna be really helpful. They're getting Caruso back, which is really helpful too. But they're just kind of middle of the pack. Really, probably bottom of the playoff picture. Mm-hmm. I think the Hawks are better than them. I think the Hawks did get better. They did.
Yeah.
It's not even really my opinion. Getting DeJounte Murray definitely improves and raises your ceiling, especially defensively, and I think offensively too. I think the Hawks are better than the Bulls. The Bulls may have their depth may be better, but I like the Hawks roster overall, and especially in terms of star power with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray better than the Bulls. So I think if I had to tier these guys up, I would put the Raptors in that Nets and Cavs tier that I mentioned, which would be tier 3, because I have the Sixers in a tier by themselves, and then I'd have the Hawks, Bulls. How many teams is that? Is that 8 teams?
And then what about Miami?
Oh, I forgot about the Heat. See, that's the tough thing now. I would honestly put Miami in their own tier. I'll put them in tier 4. No, yes, tier 4, right above Chicago and Atlanta, right below Toronto, Brooklyn, Cleveland.
Okay.
However, I think they might get into that tier 3, but I don't think they can get any higher. I think the Nets could go a tier higher. I don't think they can go any lower, and I think the Raptors can't. Raptors can't go lower. I don't think they can go higher either. So I would put the Heat in that tier of Brooklyn, Cleveland, Toronto for sure. But I also think like I said, might put them in their own. Just put them in their own tier entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, they're certainly a good team. Well, we haven't
because they didn't really get better either. They also stayed the same. In fact, you could argue they got worse. They lost PJ Tucker. He was a huge piece of their team. So I would say I would put the Heat in their own tier at tier 4, honestly.
Yeah, we took PJ Tucker from him, which was a good thing.
Yep.
For Sixers fans, so yeah, Miami Heat. I mean, there's just talent. Like these are good teams in the Eastern Conference. They're well coached teams. Like you think about Miami. I mean, Eric Spoelstra is a very good coach. There's just good teams. Milwaukee's good. Brooklyn's good. Philadelphia's good. Boston's good. Miami's good. Atlanta, Cleveland, Toronto. Like if that's because that's 8 right there.
Yeah.
So if that's your 8, like, gosh, those are good teams. And I mean, I think there's quite a drop off. I almost think it's hard to predict a playoff scenario where it's not those 8, whatever order.
Yeah.
Because after that, you've got who? You've got Charlotte, New York, Detroit, the Magic, the Pacers. Like, I mean, those 8. And granted, again, we've just discussed it. Like those 8 are good.
Very.
See what I mean? Like there's little room for.
Very little margin for error here, especially if you're the Sixers.
Yeah, again, barring injury and other things, like certainly someone else could sneak in.
Yeah.
But like those certainly seem like the 8 to me. So why don't you give me, like we did last year? I don't know if you got any right now.
Oh, I have one. I'm so ready for this.
A bold prediction for the NBA season.
I will make it Sixers related.
Okay.
Now, I have a couple. I'm going to be posting them soon on my page, but this is one of them. So if you're watching this early, just prepare yourself. Here it is. Sixers related bold prediction is that Shake Milton wins Sixth Man of the Year this year.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. That is. If you put money on that.
Did I or should I or what?
No, if you did, if you put like $50,
I would
on
put
that,
down like $1.
You'd make like $50,000.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay. What's that's cool. What's making you feel that way?
Well, the basis is that I'm a lot higher on Shake than most.
Yes.
And I think he's a great player. I think this season could be a redemption year for him, especially if he's playing alongside DeAnthony Melton when it comes to minutes off the bench. If he's the 7th man, if he's the co-6th man, who knows? I think the sixth man is going to be D'Anthony Melton.
Mm-hmm.
But if Shake gets equal minutes as him or more maybe as him somehow, and if they kind of alternate depending on how Shake plays, I could see him getting put into that race of sixth man of the year. And I don't want to say it's possible. It is because it's the NBA. We've seen crazy things happen. 4 bounce buzzer beater by Kawhi Leonard. So, I think it's possible. But I don't know how possible it is. That's why it's bold, though, right? So it's bold. Bold prediction.
That is bold.
Yeah.
That is bold.
So that's my bold prediction. Yeah.
Okay.
Take it or leave it. You probably just leave it because.
No, that's a bold one. That's a bold one. And I think a lot of that has to deal with not just he's going to win the sixth man of the year, but like if he's remotely close to that conversation, a lot of it's going to have to do with his role, this D'Anthony Melton acquisition, like all of that would have to play favorably for Shake Milton. And we'll see how it is. I mean, it's within the first few weeks of the season, we'll hopefully get a look as to how those two are going to work in the backcourt. I see a lot of people saying that Shake's not even really in the conversation at all. Just with D'Anthony coming in, everybody's high on D'Anthony Melton, rightfully so. But let's not forget Shake Milton and who he is and what he can do for this team too. So, all right, I guess I'll give one. And
let's hear yours.
I can't think of another one, so I'm gonna stick with this Orlando Magic train.
Oh wow!
And I'm gonna say, is this if this is not bold enough, you tell me.
Okay.
I'm gonna say, and I think it should be bold enough because they were last place last year. That they are going to make the play-in tournament. So they're going to finish the regular season seed 7 through 10. Not saying they're going to go to the playoffs after that, but they're going to make the play-in.
On a bold scale, 1 to 10, 10 being the most bold, I would give that like a 5.
A 5, okay. All right.
I need something else. Come on. I need something else.
They make the playoffs.
Oh, wow, okay. That's like it's like a 9.
Okay. So
yeah,
they make.
There you go.
Whether they come in at 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, they're gonna be playing the 1 or 2 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. I like it. Hopefully that stays. I'm not doing the Bulls again. They let me down. The other one I would say, like if I had anything, again in this conversation of standings, again the Cavs are another team I'm big on. I'm just trying to figure out what would be bold, because you've got again all of those teams. I think what would be bold is saying that the Cavaliers host or have more playoff games at their home court in the first round, meaning that they get a top 4 seed. That'd be pretty bold.
I think that's pretty bold, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's a big perspective one too, because it all depends on, well, I guess the Magic one was too, but it all depends on how high or low you are on the Cavs, because a lot of people are high on them. A lot of people have them as contenders, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. That's not even bold. That's just kind of ridiculous. And then a lot of people have them as just, middling playoff team, which I disagree with. I like most scenarios, I find myself somewhere in the middle. So it's kind of a perspective thing, I feel like.
Yeah, so what that would mean, if you think about it, that would mean if, let's say, hypothetically, they get the 4 seed, that means they finish ahead of one of the following: the Sixers, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Nets, the Heat.
Wow.
Or finish ahead of 2 of those.
Wow.
Math is hard. So that means they'd be...
Math is hard.
the 4 and 2 of those would be 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Possible. Maybe. We don't know. All right, so you've already predicted your 6th man of the year.
Well, that wasn't my prediction. That was my bold prediction.
That was your bold prediction. Okay, yeah, there is a difference.
Yes.
You're right. You're exactly right. Okay. Give me, I don't know what ones we want to predict. I think you predicted Ime Udoka.
Dude, somehow I predicted him
coach
being
of the
a
year
good
last
coach.
year.
I don't know how that happened. That was just so random.
Yep. Who won coach of the year last year? I don't remember.
Um,
It had to be Williams, Monty Williams.
Yes. And it should have been Taylor Jenkins. But it wasn't.
Yeah. All right. So give me an award prediction. I don't care which one.
Okay, so I posted these on my page, and I'm honestly really surprised at the reaction this got by everybody on my page. It was, I don't want to say I was shocked, but it really caught me off guard. I guess because they were really kind of out there for some people, so it was a little off-putting. But I'll give MVP, I'll give Defensive Player of the Year, and I'll give Most Improved Player. You want to do that?
Okay. Sure.
Right. So, Most Improved Player, fitting into my Raptors theme for this show, Precious Achiuwa. I like that. I said I like that dude. Whatever. I like that player a lot. I don't know if you remember, but Precious Achiuwa was put on my radar when he made 7 threes against the Sixers in the playoffs.
Yes. Yeah.
That's when I was really like, okay, something's up with this dude, but in a good way. So that's when I really started to pay attention to Precious Achiuwa. But he really fits that mold of versatile wing who can also play center. In fact, I believe he is a center for the Raptors, but he also plays on the perimeter. He's a good defender. He can score a little bit as well. He's really mobile. I think this could be a breakout year for him. I think he could build off last year, which was the best year of his career. And
right.
Usually,
I like that. I really do.
Usually, guys
I
build
like
on that.
That's a good choice.
MVP. Everyone didn't like this one, and I guess I can understand why. But my MVP is Zion Williamson. I did go a bit bolder.
What?
I did go a bit bolder this year in my predictions. These aren't my bold predictions. They're bolder than people. They're bolder than what most people have as their NBA award predictions. So my premise for this is that if the Pelicans are a top 5 seed, which I think they could be because they have a great roster, they could have one of the best offenses in the league largely because of Zion. I think it's possible. If he plays 65-plus games, which might be a stretch because he's had a lot of health issues. Well, that's kind of an understatement because he was out a year because of a foot injury. But I think what he was able to do in his first year of playing, I think we could see that again. And he made All-NBA third team. So, I don't know. I think it's very. I think it's not very possible, but again, kind of fitting into my theme of it's something that I could see happening.
Right, and it's not. To your credit, it's not very fun if you're like,
yes,
I'm picking
it's
Nikola
boring
Jokic to win MVP.
And that's what I said on my page too. I said everybody picks chalk every year. Let's have fun with it and pick something that's not
going to get any
just
props
normal. Like, oh, I'm gonna just choose this because I think that's exactly what's gonna happen. Like, have some fun with it.
Yes, and having fun is what you're doing, and I respect that.
I appreciate that.
I'll tell you what, if Zion Williamson finishes like top 7 or 8 in MVP, I will count that as a win for you, my friend, because that's solid. So I like that. All right, and the D point.
Yes. Oh, this one also. I made a couple posts about this on my page too. My Defensive Player of the Year pick is Joel Embiid. I have way more reasoning, and I'm way more inclined to believe that this is going to happen. Way more so than my other award picks. Joel Embiid said during Media Day, this is not a direct quote, but it basically is, that he wants the Sixers to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. How's that going to happen? Well, it's going to happen because Joel Embiid is going to have to make it happen. He's going to have to be the best defender on that team if the Sixers are going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. It's also going to require him to most likely have the best defensive season of his career. Now, that could put him in the Defensive Player of the Year race, depending on how everybody else does. And that's a big if because Rudy is a 3-time D-boy. Giannis has won it before. Anthony Davis is coming back healthy. He's also a really good defender. Bam Adebayo, Draymond Green. A lot of competition there. Yeah. But who knows if Joel Embiid's season is good enough, it could get him the award. Never know.
Okay. All right. There you have it. I like it. I like all of those. It's fun. I'm not even gonna. I can't top that. So I'm not even gonna try.
You don't have to do it. You do the other three. Do the other three, or do whatever you want. It's
which would be what?
Coach, 6-man, and rookie, or you could do any combination. It doesn't matter to me.
I will do. I will do Coach of the Year. And the only reason I'm saying this gentleman that I'm going to is because I'm a big fan of his. So it is Joe Mazzulla.
Okay, you're a big fan because
the interim head coach for the Boston Celtics. Do I like the Celtics? Absolutely not. I hate the Celtics. But Joe Mazzulla, so I can give you a story.
Let's hear
of who he
it.
is,
I would love to hear it.
And I will.
No
so
idea
Joe
who he
Mazzulla
is.
went to this university on my hat right here, West Virginia University. He was a point guard back, like 2008 through 2012. So he's only 34 years old. I actually got his autograph. I met him,
I like this.
Several years ago, and if I could tell you the kind of player he was, it really wouldn't do it justice, but I'm going to try. Not a scorer by any means. Probably his whole college career averaged like 3-4 points a game. But the dude is the toughest guy I've ever seen on a basketball court, and he's a point guard. If I'm trying to like maybe like a PJ Tucker in point guard form.
I like that.
So to tell you how tough he was, at his junior or senior season, he hurt his left shoulder, which was his shooting shoulder. He missed some time, but he came back, and you could tell he was in pain because he was shooting with his right hand.
Wow.
Crazy. So like he didn't shoot a lot. Like he was a point guard that really just managed the game. But like if he got to the free throw line, he shot right-handed. If he shot a jump shot, it was right-handed for the bulk of that season. It was incredible, and he played well. And then in 2010, Elite Eight game against the Kentucky Wildcats, DeMarcus Cousins, John Flowers, Joe Mazzulla, who scored like 1.5 points per game his college career, scored 17 on Kentucky to beat them and go to the Final
Showing
Four.
up when it matters.
Yes. So
the greats elevate their game when it matters most.
That's Joe Mazzulla. So he's bounced around a little bit, had different coaching gigs. Boston's where he's been in the NBA. So I'm really happy for him.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, he was working at like a hotel or something, and I recognized him, and I was scared. I was like 9 years old. My mom went and got his autograph for me.
That's great.
So yeah, that'd be really cool. I hate that his first coaching gig is in Boston, but what an opportunity for him! Like what a team that he's. How many times are you going to be your first team looking like that roster? So anyway, that's the only one I'll give.
Give one more.
For the next.
Give one more. Honorary prediction.
You name it.
Let's hear your MVP.
MVP. I mean, you said Zion Williamson. What am I supposed to say?
Yeah, but you can say whoever you want. It doesn't matter who I said.
I know, but I don't want to say Giannis. I don't want to say Embiid.
Why
I don't
not
say
Giannis?
Jokic,
Giannis hasn't won in a couple years
That's
because of
boring.
voter fatigue. Voter fatigue sucks.
Yeah. Okay, maybe not MVP, but maybe like.
Okay, go to Defensive Player of the Year then.
NBA doesn't do comeback player of the year, do they?
Do most improved.
Most improved. I don't know. No, I'm gonna. I just want to give a shout out to the guy we mentioned earlier, Kawhi Leonard.
Fine.
Kawhi Leonard will be a first team all defensive member.
That's fantastic. That could fit into the bowl predictions too.
That?
Well, that's also
a
an
bowl
award,
prediction
though,
would be.
so I'll count that.
Yeah, a bowl prediction would be that he wins the Depoy. So we'll say that. We'll say
Perfect.
That. Kawhi Leonard Depoy. All right, we are running out of time, my friend. But
we got this
real quickly. So the last couple things we want to touch on are keys to the Sixers' success this season, whether it's someone's shooting percentage, Matisse Thybulle, whether it's Joel Embiid doing this or doing that or playing this amount of games. You give me one, I'll give you one. We'll go back and forth until we hit 4. Just a key to the Sixers' success this season.
Fantastic. Key to the Sixers' success this season, I'll say James Harden averaging at least 20 points and I'll say averaging 20 points or more and playing 65 games, I'll say. I would say 70, but that's only 12 games of rest, and I feel like he might need more than that. I'll say 65.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. I like that. I agree with that. I'll give one, and it's one that we've talked about a lot, one that we're both very excited to see, but I think it's the Sixers guards off the bench. And DeAnthony Melton, Shake Milton, what's that going to look like? How much production can they give? How much, when James Harden only plays 60, 65 games, how are the Sixers going to look? Just those guys meshing together, with the starting guards as well. I'm just looking forward to what DeAnthony Melton's going to bring. The bench as a whole has a lot of potential. We've touched on that all off season long, but that's mine, is those guards and the role that they're going to play.
My next one, I'm going to kind of play into that a little bit, is I need at least 30 points off the bench for the Sixers. Whoever scores it, I don't care, but that's a big part of what bench production looks like. Obviously, it's more than that, but that's a huge part.
Okay. All right. With my last one, a key to the Sixers' success is going to have to do with their three-point shooting. You got all these guys around James Harden. We did it last, a few episodes ago. We were like, there's going to be like 7-8 guys who are going to take 3-4 threes a game for the Sixers. One of the keys there is, in my opinion, Tobias Harris. So Tobias, last few years, he's averaged 21 in the half season he had in LA. He averaged 18, then 19, then 19, then 17 last year. His 3-point attempts per game have been roughly the same, 3.4 to 3.8 this past season. I would love to see that up, over 4.5 per game, and to knock it down and get it back to that 40% clip that he was at the year that he came here would just be awesome. So Tobias Harris, this is still he's a very important piece to this team. One that doesn't get mentioned a lot. He was the most consistent player in the NBA playoffs for the Sixers last season, in my opinion. So I just think he's key, and I think he's a knockdown shooter. He's very talented, of course, around the rim and in the mid-range as well, but for him for teammates to find him open for three this year and for him to take him would be a key in my mind.
Agree. And my final, Joel Embiid. Everything comes down to Embiid always. He's got to play himself to at least 65 games. Obviously, you want to keep him healthy, but he also has got to play to. He's the Sixers' best player. He's got to be there at some consistency, right?
Right. Okay. So we've got 2 games coming up that we're going to touch on right now. But Sixers at Boston, of course, on Tuesday night to open up the season, and the home opener against the Bucks. It doesn't get much more difficult of a schedule to open up season. Give me one thing you want to see this week.
I'm just excited. Sixers are back. I would like to really just see them just play, and I would like to see them shake the rust off. And obviously, it's not going to look great because the season's just starting, but I would just want to see them get their footing under them.
Okay. In one of those 2 games, I want to see a Joel Embiid 40 piece.
Against the Bucks, that would be fantastic.
That would be awesome.
That would be great.
Against the Bucks at home opener, get the dub. Joel Embiid drops 40. That's what I want to see. Like you said, I'm just excited, and I'm excited for you all to join us on Planet 76 for another full season of Sixers hoops. And we'll be, the next time we record, we're going to be talking about some hoops and breaking down some action. So we hope that you'll join us for episode 70 next time of Planet 76. Peace.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Planet 76 podcast. Please consider subscribing. It helps us out a lot and lets you know that you enjoy what we post. So thank you, and peace out.